Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are going on a massive world tour, and we're trying to answer a question that, sounds simple on the surface, but the answer is actually huge.
It really is.
The question is, which countries have the most castles?
It is a massive question. Quite literally, when we talk about castles, we are talking about stone giants.
Exactly. And I think for most people, myself included, when you hear the word castle, your brain instantly goes to one specific place.
Medieval Europe.
You think medieval Europe. You think knights, drawbridges, maybe a dragon if you've watched too many movies. Or, let's be honest, you think of the Disney logo.
Right.
But looking at the data we have today, that leaderboard of where these structures actually are, it is full of surprises.
It really is. And I think before we even start counting, it's important to frame what we're actually looking at here. Because castles aren't just, piles of stone walls or pretty towers for tourists.
Right.
They are functional. They are time capsules.
Time capsules, I like that.
They really are. They are the ultimate symbols of power from their respective eras. I mean, they were tools used to protect vast kingdoms, to lock down trade routes, and just to project authority.
And the data covers the whole globe.
The entire globe, from the Middle East to Asia to the Americas. It really reveals how ancient empires expanded and, maybe more importantly, how they defended themselves.
So our mission today is to count down the countries with the highest numbers, uncovering the true castle capitals of the world.
Sounds like a plan.
But we're not just reading a spreadsheet. We're going to stop and look at the weirdest, coolest, and most surprising fortresses along the way. We're going to unpack the engineering, the history, all of it.
There's some serious engineering genius hiding in this list.
Okay, let's kick this off. And we're going to start with the lower numbers on the list, which I think is important because it highlights just how geographically diverse this whole thing is.
Right.
We aren't starting in England or France. We are starting in Azerbaijan.
Right. Azerbaijan comes in with 96 castles.
Now, 96 might not sound like a huge number compared to what's coming later, but for that region, that's significant.
It is. It's all about strategy. Azerbaijan sits right on the Caspian Sea. Many of these fortresses were built to defend that coastline. But even more importantly, they were there to control the trade routes through the Caucasus Mountains.
Ah, so it's like a toll booth.
A toll booth with archers, yes. If you control the pass, you control the money.
Makes sense. Okay, moving just a little bit up the list, we have Turkey with roughly 100 castles. Now, Turkey is famous for being that bridge between Europe and Asia, so...
Absolutely. Turkey's count directly reflects that status. I mean, you have layers of history there. Byzantine, Ottoman, and beyond. It's a real melting pot of military architecture.
And you can't talk Turkish castles without mentioning Topkapi Palace.
Oh, definitely not.
I've seen pictures of this. It doesn't look like a grim, gray fortress. It looks incredible.
It is. It's not just a fort. It was the main residence for the Ottoman sultans for, 400 years or so?
100 years.
Yeah. The source says it's just filled with priceless manuscripts, artifacts, treasures. It wasn't just about defense. It was about projecting the wealth and sophistication of the empire outward.
If those walls could talk,
Free!
they would have a lot to say.
Okay, now here is where things get really interesting. We have a surprise entry on the list that actually, it threw me for a loop.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
The United States.
Yes, the U.S. comes in with 152 structures classified as castles.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because when I think of the U.S., I don't think of medieval sieges. We didn't exactly have feudal lords in Ohio.
No, we didn't. And that's a crucial distinction. The source material is very clear that these are quite different from medieval European forts.
So what are they?
In the U.S., castle usually refers to these grand structures built to reflect American wealth or military history, not feudal defense.
So more like Hearst Castle, or maybe those old military armories that looked like castles. Exactly. They are popular tourist attractions today that offer a glimpse into the Gilded Age, the early industrial era. They're architectural homages built by wealthy industrialists who wanted to feel like kings.
A castle as a status symbol, not a bunker. Got it. Now, staying in that same range, let's jump continents again. South Africa, 153 castles.
And this is another example of colonial history leaving its mark. The most famous one is the Castle of Good Hope in Cape Town.
Yeah.
It's actually the oldest colonial structure in the whole country.
It's just fascinating how the definition of castle shifts depending on where you are,
It really does.
In Europe, it's medieval. In the U.S., it's Gilded Age wealth. In South Africa, colonial expansion.
And if we look at Iran, which sits much higher on the list with 457, the definition shifts again. Here we see the engineering of ancient Persian civilizations.
457 is a big jump. What was driving that construction?
Trade. Again, it comes back to economics. The source notes that these structures were often built along the Silk Road.
The Silk Road, so these weren't just for kings.
Some were, but many were there to protect merchants and travelers from bandits. If you're moving valuable spices or silk, you need safe havens. These castles served a vital economic purpose.
It's the Amazon delivery route of the ancient world.
Essentially, yes.
Speaking of how things are built, let's talk about how the landscape itself dictates what a castle looks like.
Form follows function, always. And a great comparison here is Norway versus the Netherlands.
Okay, numbers. Norway has 154, the Netherlands has 123. Close in count, but I imagine they look completely different.
Night and day. In Norway, castles were mainly for coastal defense. But think about the environment. It's rugged, it's cold.
Harsh winters.
Exactly. So Norwegian castles are sturdy and practical. They are not the opulent, frilly palaces you might see elsewhere. They are designed to survive the weather as much as an enemy.
Right. You don't want delicate spires in a blizzard. Now compare that to the Netherlands.
The Netherlands is all about water defenses. The land is flat, it's wet, it's below sea level, so you get places like Meterslot.
Moomerslot. That's
Yeah.
a fun name.
It is. It's a 700-year-old medieval structure, one of the best preserved. And because it's the Netherlands,
It has a moat.
of course it has a moat and a drawbridge. But there, it's a necessity. In a flat country, you can't build on a hill. Water becomes your wall.
But if you do have cliffs, let's
Yeah.
talk about the mountains, because Armenia and Austria seem to have taken the opposite approach.
Yes. Armenia has 293 ancient castles, and many are in these really difficult-to-reach mountainous areas. It was purely defensive.
Harder for an invading empire to get to you.
Exactly. And then you have Austria with 222 castles. Similar geography, slightly different purpose.
How so?
In Austria, many castles are perched on these towering cliffs over the Alps. But these were often the seats of powerful bishops and princes. It's a visual representation of hierarchy. The ruler is literally looking down on everyone else.
It's intimidation architecture.
Yeah.
And we can't talk mountains without Switzerland. 552 castles. That seems like a lot for a small country.
It's incredibly dense. And the most famous one is the Château de Chillon on Lake Geneva. It's the most visited historic building in the country.
And a lot of these have been repurposed now, right?
That's right. Many of them now house museums for weapons, armor, art. They've transitioned from fortifications to custodians of history.
I love that. Okay, let's shift gears. We've talked strategy, we've talked geography. Now I'm going to talk about the celebrities.
The pop culture icons.
Exactly. Let's start with Denmark. They have 168 castles, but one of them is arguably one of the most famous literary locations in history.
You're talking about Kronborg Castle.
Yes, the home of Hamlet.
Indeed. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site,
Hmm.
and it's at this really strategic point between Denmark and Sweden. But yeah, its global fame is all Shakespeare. It's a case where the story has almost outshone the stone.
And speaking of stories outshining stone, we have to talk about Romania. 301 castles. And one of them, well, it sucks, pun intended,
Brand Castle.
also known as Dracula's Castle.
Right. And it draws huge crowds of tourists looking for vampire lore. Now, historically, the connection to the fictional Dracula or even Vlad the Impaler is, let's say it's loose.
Very loose.
But it doesn't matter. The legend is part of the architecture now.
It really is. Now, if we're talking legends, we have to talk about the ultimate fairy tale castle. Let's go to Germany. First, the number here is huge, 3,481 castles.
It is a significant tier jump. We are moving from the hundreds into the thousands now.
And the star of the show has to be Neuschwanstein.
The world-famous Neuschwanstein. It's the castle that famously inspired the Sleeping Beauty castle at Disneyland.
It's iconic.
It is. When people say they want a fairy tale moment, this is the building they are picturing in their heads.
But 3,481, that suggests a very fragmented history, doesn't it? Lots of little rulers.
That's exactly what it reflects.
Yeah.
A time when that region was divided into so many small states, principalities, duchies, each one needing its own seat of power and defense.
Before we move on, I want to quickly mention Sweden. 244 castles, and there's one called Kalmar Castle.
Ah, the key to the kingdom.
That's the one.
Its significance is all location. It's near the Danish border, which for a long time was a real hot zone. If you controlled Kalmar, you controlled access to Sweden. So again, it's not just a pretty building, it's a strategic lock.
Let's look at some different styles now. Not all castles are gray stone towers. Let's go to Poland. 375 castles, and one of them is a record holder.
Malbork Castle. It is the largest castle in the world by land area.
By land area, that is huge.
It's monumental. And it looks different. It's made of this deep red brick. It was built by the Teutonic Knights. When you see it, the sheer scale of that red brick construction is just overwhelming.
A red brick giant. I like that. But let's go even further east for a totally different aesthetic. Japan. 272 castles.
Japanese castles are so architecturally distinct. They rely on these massive stone bases to protect against earthquakes, but then they're topped with these beautiful, multi-tiered wooden structures.
And the most famous is Himeji Castle.
The White Heron Castle.
That sounds so elegant.
It is stunning. It's the largest and most visited in Japan. The white plaster walls make it look like a bird taking flight. It's a masterpiece of combining beauty with defensive function.
Then we have India with 802, but the source says these aren't just castles in the way we've been talking about them.
No, in India, you're often looking at massive forts and palaces that housed entire cities. Inside the walls, you'd find temples, markets, barracks.
They were self-contained worlds.
Exactly. A fortified civilization, not just a lord in a tower.
And we have to touch on Ireland, 657 castles.
Ireland is just dotted with them. The landscape is literally green fields and gray stone. A lot of these are tower houses.
Tower houses?
Yeah, smaller, vertical, fortified houses built for protection against raids. It wasn't about massive armies. It was about protecting your family and your cattle from the neighbors.
I love that image. Now, we've talked about the ones that are standing, but what about the ones that had a rough time?
We'll look at Hungary. 305 castles. Many have amazing views of the Danube, which sounds romantic. But the history is violent. The source notes many Hungarian castles were intentionally destroyed.
Intentionally?
Yes. First by the Ottoman Empire, but later by the Habsburgs. They destroyed the castles to prevent rebellions. If the rebels don't have a castle to hide in, it's harder for them to fight back.
That is ruthless. We're not just defeating you, we're deleting your base.
Pretty much.
We see a lot of strategic placement in this middle tier, too. Portugal, 284 castles, largely for defending against sea invaders.
And Greece has 110, including the Palace of the Grand Master of the Knights of Rhodes.
Which is just a fantastic title.
It really is.
And then there's Spain. Spain has a huge number, 1,459 castles.
It's a lot of stone. And the style is unique, a blend of European and Islamic architecture. You can often see them from miles away on these high hilltops dominating the dry landscape.
Okay, we have arrived. We are entering the top 5. We've seen hundreds, we've seen a few thousands, but the numbers are about to get wild.
Let's do it.
So context first. At number 5 and 4, we have Belgium and the United Kingdom. Belgium has 12,240 castles.
Which is incredible for its size. Belgium has one of the highest numbers of castles per square mile in the world.
Wow.
And many of them evolved from defensive forts into these luxurious moated country houses.
And then the UK at number 4 with 1,500, and we have to mention Windsor.
We must. Windsor Castle is the oldest and largest continuously occupied castle in the world, a royal home for over 900 years.
900 years. That is continuity that's just hard to wrap your head around.
It is.
Okay. Number 3, Czechia, 1,820 castles.
Again, for a relatively small area, that's incredibly dense with history. And of course, it's home to Prague Castle. Guinness World Records lists it as the largest ancient castle complex in the world.
A city within a city.
That's right.
Okay, here is the moment, the jump. We just said Czechia has about 1,800. Germany had about 300 to 500. The runner-up, number 2 on our list, is Italy, and the number is 20,000.
20,000. It is a staggering leap.
That's everywhere. Why the massive jump? What happened there?
It just speaks to the fragmented nature of Italian history. For centuries, Italy wasn't one country. It was a collection of city-states, rival families, warring factions.
So everyone needed protection from everyone else.
In a way, yes. It's a map of chaos.
Yeah.
Today, many of them are repurposed. They're museums, luxury hotels, wineries. You can drink wine in a fortress that once defended against medieval armies.
20,000 is mind-blowing, but there is one more. The undisputed champion.
The castle capital of the world.
Number 1 is France.
France sits at the top with an incredible 45,000 castles.
45,000.
It is hard to even visualize that number.
That's more than double Italy.
It is. And this sheer volume includes everything. You have grim medieval fortresses from the feudal wars, and you have these elegant Renaissance palaces. They were more about status than defense.
Yeah.
The Loire Valley alone is just packed with them.
45,000. That is just a lot of maintenance.
A lot of dusting, certainly. But it really shows how central the castle was to French culture and organization for 1,000 years.
So we've gone from the cliffs of Austria to the moats of the Netherlands. We've looked at castles protecting the Silk Road in Iran and inspiring Disney in Germany.
From red brick giants in Poland to white herons in Japan, it really highlights that while we think of castles as European, the desire to build these stone giants is universal.
And what's the big takeaway?
Whether they are ruins in Hungary or luxury hotels in Italy, these structures are all reminders of how humans have always sought to project power and protect what is theirs.
It brings me back to your time capsule idea. These are 45,000 time capsules in France alone. But it makes me wonder if castles are the time capsules of the past, representing power and defense.
What are we building today?
Yeah, what are we building today that will be the castles of the future? What will future generations count and study? Will it be our skyscrapers, our massive data centers?
It might be the fortresses of information rather than stone.
Something to think about next time you see a tall building. Thanks for joining us on this world tour.
My pleasure.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.